Margaret Elchler once said, "A businessman is aggressive, but a businesswoman is pushy. Men are good at details in business, and businesswomen are picky. His judgments are her prejudices. A man might drink because of the stressiness of his job, where she's a little more of a lush. He isn't afraid to say what he thinks, but she's mouthy. He exercises authority, and she's power mad. He climbed the ladder, and she may have gone other ways to the top. He's a taskmaster, and she is hard to work for." I'm not here to accuse all men and women of being unethical or sexist. I am here instead to bring attention to businesswomen in the culture they're submerged in corporations and businesses. The reason is because I am going into a field of business, and I was looking into women in positions of power just to see what I was up against, to see what it took for me to get out there. And instead I found very few women out in corporations and businesses that I was looking into, and I also found that there was still a lot of a struggle, kind of things with gender gap, wage gaps, and the glass ceiling, which I'll talk about later, that are, bringing down women in corporations and business. So, to put this in a little bit of perspective for you, how many of you like movies? A lot of you, some of you, I watch movies. So, in the 1980s, a pretty kind of radical movie came out at the time, and it was 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is a movie about 3 corporate women that seek justice against their boss for sexual harassment and discrimination in the workplace. This movie was great for its time just because in the 1960s there was a lot of women coming out in the workforce. Full-time women started doubling in size, and then in the 1970s we had feminist movements pushing for equality of women. And with the 1980s coming this movie, which when it was released raised over $170 million and won the 1981 People's Choice Award, it was kind of hitting home for a lot of the female audience. And throughout the movie, there was a lot of good vibes or good feelings coming from women that were coming to power. It wasn't something that was looked down upon. It wasn't something that was coming across negatively. Whereas some of the movies, such as a specific one that came out 26 later, The Devil Wears Prada, didn't necessarily put across the same feminist equality as as 95 did. So in this movie, a CEO is running a female-focused corporation, a fashion magazine, and she's looked up as more out of fear instead of a positive kind of a reflection. She's impassive. She always wants her employees to be waiting on her hand and foot, and especially her employees. This is kind of what is explained as an unrestricted woman in business corporation. And that's not all what is put across with 9 to 5, whereas women are treated very, generously. They're, seeking, not vengeance, but justice, whereas Miranda is seeking more vengeance coming from her personal life. And I just found, once again, that it was interesting that even though 9 to 5 came out 26 years earlier than The Devil Wears Prada, it had stronger feminist values, stronger equality values. And The Devil Wears Prada was more, not so much of power sharing and inclusiveness, it was more of just unrestricted women. Now, both films over-dramatize, the struggles with, women in the corporate business. And the gender gap has decreased since the 1980s, but there are still struggles with the modern businesswoman today. So, for example, women in business often try to cope and try to change their tone from feminine to masculine. And they try to promote, instead of looking down as feminine, they try to say, okay, instead of talking about shopping, they might focus on facts and information. But then that backfires because everyone else, women and men alike, their coworkers, bosses, employees, look at them like they're very pushy. So it's all a cycle. And this kind of relates back to the glass ceiling. This is one of the things, such as outside of language, but also like the gender gap, wage gap, and glass ceiling theory. Glass ceiling theory is when women are prevented from being promoted from certain managerial levels in a corporation to higher ones just because they're women. It's not because they're inadequate in their job or they're late, not doing their assignments or projects. It's just because they're women, which is very unfair. And sexual harassment is actually still a problem. In one of my sources that I found, the Feminist Majority Foundation, they actually said that 20% of sexual offenders in businesses get fired. That's just 20%. That means 4 to 5 people, they get away with it, just with harsher reprimandation. So to kind of promote more equality, I guess that would be just more of being aware, especially with me going into the business, corporations, as a woman. I want to strive and be the best that I can be and get as high in the corporate ladder as I can. So if you just stay open-minded and willing and ready to work with people of the opposite sex, I think that we'll get along.